to Women on the Move. Our next profile is on a woman on the move at one of the world's largest news gathering organizations. Lyn Vaughn has been bringing you the news at CNN Headline News since December of 1984.
When I was a little girl, I wanted to be everything from a ballerina to a movie star to a doctor to a cowgirl. When I got old enough to make serious plans, I thought about going into law. My family wanted me to be a doctor, but since I couldn't stand the sight of blood, I thought that was out. But I wanted to go into law until I graduated from college and realized that I really had had enough of school. I went to the master's program at NYU, decided I had had enough of that as well, and dropped out before I got my master's and started looking for work.
Lyn's broadcast journalism career began in radio in New York.
I didn't decide to pursue it as much as I fell into it. I had dropped out of grad school and had no idea what in the world one would do with a degree in political science. And I had a friend who knew an attorney in New York, and she told him about me, and he invited me to his office on the 44th floor of the Pan Am building and said, "What would you like to do?" And I said, "I would like to be rich and famous." And he got a big laugh out of that. He thought that that was so funny. And actually, a 22-year-old saying something like that is funny because you don't have really any notion what you're talking about. But anyway, he called someone at CBS Radio, a vice president, and the vice president said, "Send her over." So I started in radio at the very bottom. I started as a desk assistant, which is another fancy way to say a gopher's job, and I fetched coffee. My first shift was at from 3 in the morning until 10 in the morning with no lunch break. And I fetched coffee, and I bought cigarettes, and I ripped copy, and in the process of doing all that, discovered that I had an aptitude for the business. I liked the business and was good at it. Well, they gave me a microphone and a tape recorder and sent me out on a story. Fortunately, I had seen enough people do it to know what it was that I was supposed to do. My first story was covering something about the Patriots football team in Boston. And from there, I got assigned to cover the courts. I always tell people I could have a law degree, as many courtrooms, federal and state, as I've sat in. But it was really eye-opening for me. First of all, my mother's an English teacher, so I've always had an aptitude for language. And secondly, the gathering of information, trying to get at something, trying to get to the truth was interesting for me. And so I was pretty good at it. And I'm a hustler. That was the other thing. I will hustle and I will get the story. I don't come back empty-handed. So I did that in radio for 5 years until I got the itch to get into television.
Lyn has become a perennial favorite on Headline News, receiving fan mail and calls from celebrities and other viewers from around the world.
I had a friend in television who said to me that when I asked her about it, that it was a question of putting together the look with your reporting skills. I already knew how to get a story. I already knew how to ask questions. So the only thing to do was to figure out how to dress for TV. In radio, you dress any way you want to dress. But in television, you have to have a certain look, a certain appearance. And so I had to work on that in the sense that I was used to walking around looking like a bum if I wanted to. And I had to learn how to pay attention to what I was wearing and what my makeup looked like. But I didn't have much trouble with that because I started in television as a reporter. And you're out in the field and the wind is blowing your hair, and so you have to be less concerned about it than you are when you're an anchor. I think the thing that I didn't like at first is that you lose the control. When you're a reporter, you are the one responsible for getting the facts. You and your crew. Your crew helps you decide which pictures to take, but you can tell them which pictures you want. So you're in charge of getting the story, bringing it in, and telling it to the viewers in such a way that they will understand what you're talking about. When you're an anchor, you don't have that much control over the product. The reporters and the writers do much of the work. Your job is to communicate it to people, and that was one of the things I didn't like. On the other hand, the anchor seat is where the credibility is, and if you have that, then you are good at what you do. If you are credible, if you can hold the viewer's attention, then you're good at what you do. So I try to mix both. I try to have, now in my present position, I try to be credible at what I do and communicate in such a way that people really understand and I'm really informing them. But I also have control over the product in the sense that I do a lot of editing and I change the words so that the nuances and subtleties of language.
Take my hand, girl, and walk with me out onto the floor. Let me watch you, let me touch you, let me hold you tight. I've got moves, girl, you've got moves too. We can dance all night. Just come with me and cut loose, girl. I'm gonna show you a good time. Party with your body.